Hey guys, Wrestling Throwdown here. I'm Haley, and whew, this is definitely gonna be a video right here. I was actually planning on putting this in with the TNA and NXT, but I watched the whole thing. It's like 2 hours, and there's so much information that I have to talk about and in my opinion on it and everything. That especially for the people who didn't watch the interview and just want to watch this, if they're just like, oh, I can't take it, I don't want to watch that, maybe that you're mad at CM Punk, whatever your reason is. I'm pretty much putting it in I'm probably going to try and put it in like half hour, 45 minutes to what he put in for 2 hours. But it was very shocking at the end. If you guys watched it, a lot of people thought one thing, and he obviously, first of all, this was actually really surprising. I never thought in a million years he would actually, put all this information out there. And there's a whole bunch of blown up Twitter stuff between Ryback, Triple H, Vince, all of them. Like everyone's going nuts, pretty much. And they're pissed at Punk and everything like that. The Ryback thing I'll get to because he does talk about this in the interview. But it's just he said so much stuff. He kind of started I would say from his heel turn he kind of started like pretty much back right when he came back and everything, when he was working with the obviously his wife's storyline and with Daniel Bryan, obviously when they had that love angle. He kind of talked about that too, and he talks about AJ quite a bit in this interview too. He doesn't actually say April or AJ. At least I don't think he does. I didn't hear anything. He just says my beautiful wife and whatever and blah 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 when he talks about her. But I mean, we all know it's AJ Lee, so. But yeah, he gets into a lot of really good stuff. And it's shocking at the end. A lot of people, I bet you a lot of the haters that watch this, that's why a lot of them are just like, oh my God, Punk, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I thought you walked out on the WWE. And yeah, you guys could say that, oh, this is just CM Punk's side of the story, but the thing is I highly doubt he would make all this stuff up. He was throwing F-bombs and everything. This like came from his heart. You could tell like this interview with Colt Cabana was like serious. Like he was pissed. He wanted to get it all off his chest. He wanted to tell all the Twitter haters, and some of the stuff too that he talked about what they're tweeting to his wife too. I thought that was really fucked up too, and I'll get into that too. But I guess we'll start off first with the Ryback thing. I guess I can talk about he talks first about like how Vince promised him so many things. Like he had a shot for a movie deal and everything like that. And because he was injured and everything like that, and how he was champion and they wanted him to do this and everything, they gave it to Randy Orton. And so he was just like, that's not a big deal, whatever. It's no big deal. And so, like, Vince kept promising him these things and said, I owe you one, I owe you one. And CM Punk kept counting it. I think it added up to like 3 or 4 different things. And pretty much while he did this, one of the things was Ryback. And this is what I was really focused on because I just now watched the interview like 15 minutes ago. I just ended it. And I was just like, you know what? I gotta do a video on this. I'm just like, I gotta, not because I was just gonna talk about it, but I'm just like, I haven't really seen the interview, so I can't really have an opinion on it. I mean, I kind of gave my opinion last night before watching the interview on my CM Punk, but I'm just like, I kind of need to watch this and everything before I actually talk about any of this. And I'm a huge CM Punk fan. He's one of my favorites of all time, and I'll always like him. This is pretty much what I said in the group. If you guys didn't see, I pretty much said that I like him, but I wouldn't want to meet him in real life. And when he talked about how he met his recent fans lately, I kind of take that back. I do think I would approach him. I'm a very nice person. I approach, obviously it's common sense when you're meeting a wrestler if you see him like outside. if you go up to him, you obviously want to be polite and you want to introduce yourself and you want to say please and excuse me and thank you. You don't want to say, I want an autograph or take a picture with me. Or obviously what he had a little moment with one of his fans, and I'll get into that too. But obviously I'm nice like that, and I obviously do all that stuff. But some of these people obviously don't, and that's why they have such a bad, memory of meeting CM Punk, and they're just like, oh, he's an asshole in real life and everything like that. The reason I said I didn't want to meet him though at first was because I feel like he's just he's a little, I mean, he's obviously better now. I can definitely tell he's a lot happier, but he seems like not in a very approachable guy. He just seems like you have to like really approach him at a really good time where he's like not doing anything and he's just, in the mall or something doing nothing. Just, you can't approach, I feel like you shouldn't be able to approach him at like airports, games, when he's eating, nothing like that. And a lot of wrestlers too, people have told me that they told me that they met Seth Rollins at when he was eating dinner or whatever with his fiance and everything, and they said he was like super nice and he took pictures with them and everything like that. Depends on how you approach them too. I'm sure, they're obviously not gonna, you just gotta be nice and everything and say, oh, when you're finished with your meal. You don't like demand a picture or demand an autograph, because obviously then they are gonna turn into assholes, and then you're gonna be like, oh, they're an asshole in real life, I had a bad experience and everything like that. But that's not the point right now. He talks about Ryback, and he pretty much talks about like they were talking about how this was, I can't remember when this was. I don't know if this was at this might have been the first match they were wrestling in. But he talks about John Cena too, and he says, like he likes John Cena, and he says, John Cena, they promised him so many things and they always fell through for him, and they promised me so many things and they never said a damn thing. That's pretty much what he said. And he said, like, no disrespect to Cena, because, I really like John. He's one of my favorite people, actually, that I worked with. And so he said no disrespect or anything. It's just, that's how it was with them. And he pretty much was ripping on WWE in general, like, well, not really WWE, but like Vince and Triple H and how they run things and everything. He wasn't really saying that it was Zena's fault. He was just saying that that's how they run things. And then he goes into talking about how when he first started wrestling against Ryback, and they go, oh, we're going to put you against Ryback. And this was pretty much when they first started the whole WrestleMania thing. Like they pretty much went up to him and said, oh, you're going to be facing Rock and you're going to be dropping it with the title and everything. And he goes, okay. And he goes, so who am I working with now? And they go, well, we're going to put you with Ryback. And this is what Seth says. Seth says the Shield was his whole idea. He says, you guys are probably not going to believe me. You guys are probably going to say I'm full of shit and everything like that. I don't know if this is true or not. It seems like, obviously, I don't think CM Punk would lie about this. Like I said, the whole interview sounded very truthful. Like he put a lot of F-bombs, and he was just like, he was swearing up a storm, and it was just like, it was because it came from the heart. He was so pissed, and he got it off his chest, so I'm sure he feels better and everything. But he talks about how he originally wanted it to be Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Chris Hero. He says those were the three guys he picked. They were like, I guess they were going to put Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, and Big Show or something together or something like that for his security. And CM Punk was just like, no, that's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And he goes, why don't we get 3 new clean guys? And they go, okay, who do you have in mind? He says, I want Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Chris Hero. And they go, well, I agree with Seth and Dean, but we're going to put Roman Reigns. And I find this funny. CM Punk did not like that. He did not think Roman was ready. I don't really know how he feels about Roman. He didn't really say too much. He called him a pretty boy, which was funny. I don't like Roman, so I thought this was funny. And he wanted Chris Hero, and obviously Chris Hero was gone. They released him and everything. Oh, that pisses me off, because I liked Chris Hero too. And he pretty much talks about how, it was, bullshit and everything like that. And he was just like, oh, I get it. They want to have the pretty boy. They want to have the looking guy and everything like that. And so he kind of like, it seems like he kind of stuck his nose up at Roman, but he didn't really talk too bad about him or anything. And he was saying like, oh, this guy isn't really ready and everything like that. But he didn't say anything else about it. He didn't say like, oh, this guy sucks or anything like that, or I don't like him. He just pretty much stuck with the pretty boy and he wasn't ready. So I don't know exactly how he feels about him in real life, because I mean, he talks about Kofi giving him a concussion at Royal Rumble, and he loves Kofi. Kofi's one of his best friends, so. But then he goes into Ryback, and he says Ryback was really dangerous, and he says that he hurt him multiple times, broken ribs, and he calls him a steroid freak, and he says like he knows he's taking steroids. And now this comes back to where Ryback, obviously, if you guys didn't see, Ryback has a big mouth. I will say this. Ryback, seriously, sometimes he needs to just calm down. He likes to put all of his business on Twitter. And what he does is he puts all of his professional life, and he'll be like, oh, blah, 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 I hate this, or blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because WWE usually gets mad at him and tells him to delete all this stuff. But they didn't tell him to delete this. And this is why, because it was about CM Punk, and they approved of this because they hate CM Punk too. So they didn't really care if he was done. But let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. He says some pretty bad stuff. He says something about like, oh, I had to work hard my entire life too, you're nothing special, you're ignorant. And he went all on CM Punk. It was pretty funny, actually. Both of them were just kind of like, oh, I don't even know. Oh, he deleted it. He already deleted it. I'm sure I can find it in an article, though. He already deleted it, though. I can't believe that. They probably told him to. I'm telling you. Yeah, delete CM Punk tweets. I'm telling you, seriously. That's what he does. He'll go on a rampage, and then he'll delete them. Okay, this is what it was. For the record, if I quit for being fragile and insecure, I would make up excuses too. Things didn't go my way for a long time, and I kept going day in and out. Slander is a powerful thing, and to state complete made-up nonsense for no reason shows his insecurities. I will continue to bust my ass, study matches every chance I get, cut promos when driving, and push myself for hours and eat and even when I hurt. Thank you. So I think it was almost like, I think CM Punk hurt Ryback's feelings. And I think this is, I mean, I know this is kind of like stupid to say. I really do. I feel like Ryback's, like kind of holding it in. And he's kind of being like, oh, I'm bad, tough guy, and oh, I don't want to act like it affects me, but it does. But it's almost coming from not like really anger. It's coming from sadness. And I feel like CM Punk hurt his feelings when he said that he sucked and he didn't know how to wrestle, because he says when he worked with him, Paul and Curtis Axel, and he said too, Curtis Axel, he tried to elevate him, and pretty much said that, like, he was trying to push him up and make him, better and everything, because he was trying to say he likes Curtis Axel, and he was just like, oh, Triple H promised Curtis Axel all these things, and he never came through, and he made him look like shit. And so Punk, I've noticed too, Punk talks about helping Rusev too, and I like this. Punk really tries to help the younger talent, and that's what I like about this. And he was just like, I'm gonna help Curtis Axel and everything. And pretty much after Ryback hurt him, he says he goes up to him after they said that, they were gonna work with him again, and he goes up to Ryback and he wants to make a clean slate. And he goes, hey, no hard feelings, let's wipe the plate clean and everything like that. And he messes up again. And I guess when he went for some kind of I don't know if it was Ryback's move or something like that, some kind of power bomb, something like that. He missed the table and he hit the concrete. And CM Punk's pelvis obviously, I guess, messed up or something like that. And so then he says I guess he confronted Ryback after this time. And he's just like, okay, listen to me right now. You either did this on purpose, deliberately to hurt me, or you're dumb as fuck. Which one is it? And I guess he uses, and he says that Ryback said, oh, I'm dumb as fuck. I'm sorry. And there was that. And so CM Punk had all these problems and everything with his ribs and everything. And so he gets on this Z-Pack, these really strong antibiotics and everything. And I guess he shit his pants on a SmackDown. Oh God, this was he was pretty humorous in this interview. And I guess WWE was like really pissed off because he posted it on Twitter and he told people, he was just like, hey guys, watch SmackDown tonight, I shit my pants. And and WWE was just like, oh no, you can't say that stuff on Twitter. And he blocks WWE. He says like he blocked them like a few months. He says he blocked them while he was working with them. Like he was just like, he said he blocked them for at least a few months before actually, this whole thing kind of blew up at Royal Rumble. So he's while working. So he blocked WWE, and he said he was laughing too. He said everyone thought it was funny. I guess Vince laughed. Vince thought it was funny. Ambrose thought it was funny, and he said like everyone thought it was hilarious. And he said, but some of the people backstage were like, oh, delete this tweet. This is really unprofessional and everything like that. So, and he says when he got into the Royal Rumble, this was when he quit. I'm not going to tell you what happened though until obviously people who have already seen the interview knows, but this at the end, that's why I said the ending really shocked me. Rusev was scared of him, I guess, and like he was just like he didn't want to like approach him or something like that, and Rusev was just kind of afraid to hurt him. I don't know, because Rusev was obviously new at that time, and Punk was just like, no, I'll help you. He's just like, you got to do something crazy. He's like, pick me up and do something. He goes, because if you target me and if you do something to me, people are gonna remember you. And he said then Kofi comes into the ring, and this is, I guess, where he got his concussion. He does his, like athletic thing, flippy-do through the middle ring and everything like that. And he does a clothesline. And he says that's where he got his concussion. And he says, Kofi, I'm sorry, I know it was an accident. It's nothing, And that's what he said too. He's just like, Kofi's never hurt him or anything like that. That was just that one time and everything. Ryback obviously hurt him, multiple times. And I'm not saying everyone's perfect. Maybe Ryback, he is kind of, obviously, maybe he really needs to work on not injuring people. Maybe they're not like having him spot right. Maybe they didn't teach him right, before he came in. And that's the thing too, because I know Jack Swagger, he's been injuring. I mean, he injured Wade Barrett and everything like that. But you don't see Wade Barrett, blowing up and being like, oh, Jack Swagger, you injured me on purpose. So that's where I'm kind of like on the whole CM Punk thing. I think CM Punk, I mean, yeah, that is kind of, I do think that's fucked up that Ryback hurt him twice. But I think what Punk needed to do was approach Ryback in a little bit more of a normal tone instead of saying that, oh, you're stupid and stuff like that. And maybe he could have been like, hey, let's talk to Vince and maybe we can, get someone to help you train your spots and everything like that. Because it seems like, you don't know, you need a little bit extra. And just be nice about it. I'm sure Ryback wouldn't mind if he said something like that. You don't just like go up to someone and say, oh, you're fucking stupid, because maybe he wasn't trained right, and that's the one thing where I was kind of like, Punk, that's not very nice. And I don't think that was very professional, obviously, that Ryback did that on Twitter either, but I do think he hurt Ryback's feelings. And I think that obviously maybe that's why Ryback, he acts out in rage. He does it without thinking and then he deletes them. Whether he deletes them because he deletes them or he deletes them because WWE tells him to delete them. So I'm not really sure. And then I guess he was at home and he was talking to AJ and everything. And he said, he was just like, what am I doing with my life and everything like that. And his health, I guess, was just like really bad and everything like that. And so he goes and he talks about this they call it a fatty acid. That's what like the WWE doctors were calling it. And they were just like, oh, does it hurt and everything like that? And he goes, no, and I'll come back. And then I guess it got bigger over time and everything like that. And they go, well, if it doesn't hurt and everything. And then he said he came back and it was like purple or something like that. And they were like, oh, well, we can't really do anything right now because we have to put you on steroids and everything. He goes, oh, I'm already on steroids. I've been on steroids, since November. I'm fine. Just squeeze it, pop it, or whatever, remove it, and I'll be on my merry way. And I guess they didn't want to. And so he was pissed about that. And then they like started talking about how he had to pee in a cup and stuff for like his concussion right after, I guess the night of or whatever. And he was just like, oh, how come some other people don't have to, pee in a cup and everything like that? And he goes, this is bullshit and everything like that. And so he got pissed, and I guess he went to Vince's office. And this was, I don't know if this was this. I think this was the night of. Yeah, this was the night of Royal Rumble, right after the whole thing. And he talks about Glenn to Kane, and he pretty much says, if Kane, because they were going to eliminate him early in the match, and he said no, if Kane touches me, I quit. And he said it was nothing against Kane, because Kane says he said Kane didn't know about it. And he said poor Kane, he's coming down, he doesn't know. They're trying to tell him to, bring me out early and everything like that. And he was just like, luckily Kane obviously went with the flow and listened to me and everything, because if Kane didn't, obviously this whole thing could have turned ugly. And so he pretty much went to Vince and he said, I'm not happy. I don't love this anymore. I'm hurt, and you don't care about me. He pretty much told Vince, you don't care about me. You don't give a damn. All you care about is if I can wrestle. You always put me back on the shelf way earlier than what I'm supposed to and everything like that. And he talks about, Batista coming back. And he was talking about how he came back as a face. And CM Punk, I guess, said that was a horrible idea. He was just like, oh, no, I already told them this was a horrible idea. This was stupid. He did not need to do this. And he even, obviously, Batista even said this too, and they brought him back as a face. Like, they both wanted him as a heel, and they thought it was stupid to bring him back as a face, and they bring him back as a face. And he said 2 years ago was my year for WrestleMania, and this year is Daniel Bryan's. And he said, he was happy that Daniel Bryan got his year because he needed to. And he also talks about how like this whole, him walking out and everything after Royal Rumble was a little bit of like his health and everything like that, a little bit of like how he wasn't getting paid right. And he said money wasn't everything, but he says like what they were paying him was really like ridiculous and everything like that. And he goes, oh yeah, I was making millions, and people say, I make a lot, but he says like for what I was doing, I should have been making about 10 million. And he, talks about how his Undertaker and him was the best match, at WrestleMania the year before. And they were just like, and I guess like he made like a lot less money than like Triple H and everything, and The Rock and everything, and John Cena, and he was pissed about that. And he pretty much says, I don't need to wrestle anymore. He checked his bank and everything like that, and he says like he had so much money, and he was finding checks throughout the house, and I'll get into that. But he pretty much looked at Triple H when he was in the office with Vince, I guess the night that he quit. Like I said, quit. And he pretty much said that, I want to be in the WrestleMania match. He goes, this is not cool. This is why, I'm not happy and everything, and this is why I'm so sick of this. And he goes, oh no, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You get Triple H, you're wrestling Triple H. That is the main event. And CM Punk goes, no, it's not. He goes, because it's not the last match. He goes, I'm not stupid. He goes, the last match of WrestleMania is the main event. And he goes, and then I guess he says, no disrespect to you, Triple H, but I don't need to wrestle you. You need to wrestle me. And he pretty much says, like, Triple H never liked me and everything like that. And pretty much he never put him over and everything like that. He wanted him gone 3 years ago. And so I guess he looked at Vince and he said, I'm out of here. I'm gone. That's it. I'm done. I'm bye. And Vince, I guess, had tears in his eyes, which was very sad. Vince likes him. I'm telling you right now, Triple H is an asshole, but Vince likes him. Vince sometimes, does some crazy stuff, but Vince really, really likes Punk. I'm telling you right now, Vince, if it was up to Vince, Punk would be back in like a matter of that. And I'll talk more about Vince too later at the very end of this too, because I haven't gotten to the whole ending and everything yet. But yeah, he pretty much says Vince hugs him and everything like that, and he gives Triple H a handshake and he leaves. And then Vince texts him a week later and he goes, hey, you ready, to get back and everything? And he goes, no, I'm not coming back, And AJ, I guess, told him to go to her doctor in Florida and to check out that one thing, the fatty acid or whatever that they're saying, they're calling it a fatty acid, WWE doctors were. And he, I guess it was like right by his tights, like his lower back. And so he showed the doctor it, and the doctor immediately said, that's a staph infection. And he goes, that thing is green and purple and everything. And he goes, you could have died. And he says, if you didn't get this taken care of. And so he goes, so what are you going to do and everything like that? And he goes, well, I'm going to pop it. And he talks about like how he should cut it and everything and do like this IV thing and everything of antibiotics. And Punk's just like, well, can you just pop it for now and, see what it does? And doctor's like, yeah, well, I'm going to have to pop it anyways. And so the doctor pops it. And I guess Punk said, like, I don't want to like be too detailed of what he said. He was pretty detailed. He said it went all over, but he said it was like the most painful experience of his life. He said it was like more painful than tattoos, more painful than any match or broken ribs or anything. Like he said, like it was horrible. And so then he gets a call from Vince, and Vince says he's suspended until the day after WrestleMania. I think it was like 2 or 3 months. And so yeah, he's technically, yeah, he walked out, but they haven't like officially released him yet. And that's exactly why his thing was still up there, and everyone was just like, oh, why is CM Punk's thing still up there? And they suspended him. And so he goes, whatever. And he finds like checks. He says like there's so much money. And so he calls, and he keeps calling. He's trying to call Triple H and everything and call like the people who are in charge of that in the WWE. And he goes, oh, I got a check here and I need you to insure it and everything and send me, that other check and my honor check or whatever. And they kept ignoring his phone calls. And he was pretty much like, well, you know what? I don't care about the money. It's not a big deal right now. He's like, I'm planning a wedding. He was just like, I was in the middle of planning my wedding and my honeymoon and everything like that. And so he was just like, I couldn't care about that right now. We were getting married in like 2 days and I couldn't care about that. And so 2 days before the wedding, he got a text from Triple H and he goes, hey, can you call me? We need to talk. And Punk was just like, well, you know what? I'm really busy right now. Can we talk? He goes, my wedding is in 2 days. He tells Triple H this too. He says, my wedding is in 2 days. 2 days. And he goes, so can we, he goes, I will call you right back when I get, back from my honeymoon. And he gets something in the mail on his wedding day. Now this was planned. This was completely planned. Completely planned because Triple H knew his wedding was in 2 days. So you can tell it was completely planned to end up on this day. He was fired. They said he was terminated and everything like that on his wedding day. So no, he did not quit. He was not walking out. I bet you if Vince, started talking to him and everything and got him better, CM Punk would have came back. And that's why, Del Rio and everyone was just like, oh, CM Punk's going to come back. I have a feeling he's going to come back. He was fired on his wedding day. So he never quit, so everyone who's saying, oh, he quit, he walked out and everything like that, he never quit. He got fired. I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. I was just like, wow. And I mean, I wasn't like, I never thought, like he like walked out and left and everything just for nothing. I thought he did quit, but like on better terms of what people were just like, oh, he's just a quitter and everything. I thought like on the terms of, he wanted to have a family with AJ, and he just wasn't happy. He was hurting and everything like that. And I never judged him on that, but he was actually fired, and it's crazy. And he said pretty much after his wedding, AJ was getting a whole bunch of tweets, he said, and she was showing them to her. And they were pretty much like, oh, he's going to leave you just like you walked out on the WWE. Don't, this is a bad mistake marrying him. He's going to walk out on you. He's going to leave you. So just be prepared for that. And I'm just like, wow, who does that? Like, seriously, who would seriously text someone's wife and say something like that, or tweet someone's wife? And I was just like, seriously, what is wrong with people? Just that's so messed up. And obviously Punk's really pissed. He was just like, oh, I was so pissed. He was like, they were tweeting my wife and telling her, to leave me and everything like that. And I don't know if this was a shot at Chris Jericho, but he talks about Chris Jericho a little bit, and he talks about how he says, I stopped talking to some of these people. He goes, Chris is saying, I'm stopped talking to these people on his podcast, but you know what? The reason I stopped talking to these guys were because I know they're going to use their stuff for their podcast. And so I'm guessing this was a shot at Chris. Like, he was pretty much saying that Chris wasn't his friend, and that's why he's not talking to Chris anymore, was because Chris wanted to have all the dirt and stuff on his podcast. But I thought that was interesting. And he pretty much was saying, like, this was, I guess, a fan and stuff like that. He pretty much said that he is definitely approachable when people are nice. I guess he was at some kind of game, I think it was a hockey game, I think he said. And he said he was with his wife and everything like that. And he says, we're kind of like an old couple. We do date night and everything. I thought that was funny. And he says, like, they're getting in line and getting like hot dogs and stuff like that. And he says, like, some person approached him, and it just was just like, they didn't even approach him. They just shouted like, hey, Phil, can I get a picture? And I guess him and AJ just started laughing, looked at each other and just started laughing, because Punk said like they completely ignored him after that. They were like, it was extremely rude. He goes, he did not even call me. He called me by my first name, so it was completely disrespectful. He goes, he's like, I don't like it when people call me by my first name, because unless they're my friend, or unless I know them. He goes, fans need to call me by, CM Punk or whatever. And he pretty much said that, it was really disrespectful. And he said, I took pictures with like 4 other fans that day. He says they were extremely nice. They came up to me. They said hi. They introduced themselves. And they said, I'm a huge fan. Can I please have a picture? And he says they were completely nice. And he was happy, and he took pictures with them. So it's obviously the way you approach someone. I mean, this is the same thing for all wrestlers too. It's not just Punk. It's the same thing, if you guys want to meet a wrestler, you use common sense. If they're obviously eating dinner, that doesn't mean you can't go up to them. This is what I would do. If I, like, for example, if I seen Seth Rollins, eating dinner in a restaurant, hell yeah, I'm gonna go up to him. I'd go up to him and I'd be like, excuse me, I'm a huge fan and I'm sorry to bother you, but after you're done with your meal, can you take a picture with me? And that's all you have to say. They would be happy to. They would be totally happy to. I bet you 50, or I mean, seriously, like it's common sense. I'm sure they're not going to say, no, you can't. I mean, unless obviously something happens, or I mean, it has to be maybe like a weird scenario where they would say no. But I'm telling you guys right now, if you just approach wrestlers at a reasonable time and place and everything like that, you can probably, do it at every single time, any single place, except for a funeral. Though I wouldn't do it at a funeral, because Punk says he says people have approached him at a funeral. I'm just like, that's taking it too far. But you know, I mean, it's fine even if they're eating dinner and stuff like that, but you don't just be like, oh, can I take a picture of you right when you know they're eating dinner and stuff. You just say when you're done, when they're done and everything like that. So, and as for the autographs too, Seth talked about this too in his interview. I'll talk about this too on my extra video tomorrow. But he pretty much says, you know, when he's getting off the airplane at 6 in the morning, they don't want to be like bombarded with like 7 different things to sign. He goes, you know, you should be happy with just one thing signed. And I'm just like, I wouldn't even care about an autograph. I would just want a picture with someone and maybe a 5-minute conversation, if that. You know, I would be so happy with that. You know, I wouldn't ask for much at all. I don't even care about the autograph though. I really don't. I don't get why people are like so into that and everything like that. But yeah, that's all I care about is a picture and because I have CM Punk's autograph, and I mean, it's cool and everything, but it's not like, oh my God, you know, I would rather have a picture with him. I would rather, you know, obviously be able to meet him, but yeah. The whole point of this was though is that CM Punk obviously did not quit. He was fired. And that's the whole shocking thing of this whole interview. And I don't think people realize that. I think people were just so quick to judge him and say like, oh, you know, you're a horrible person. You know, you walked out in the WWE and everything, blah, 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 blah. And really, he didn't do anything wrong. You know, he was fired on his wedding day. And as I mean, it's I don't think it gets any worse than that. Like that's heartless. And that was completely planned by Triple H. Triple H knew his wedding was in 2 days because CM Punk told him his wedding was in 2 days. He texted him that after Triple H texted him and asked him if they could talk. Just seriously. It's just and I don't know if like Triple H was gonna fire him when he said like let's talk. He might have like said, oh, you know, maybe like he was going to talk to him. Maybe he got like, maybe he thought CM Punk was being rude when he said, oh, I'll call you back after my honeymoon and everything like that. And so maybe, you know, Triple H took that offensively and been like, oh, you know, your wife's more important than us, well, than your job, then you know what, whatever. Fuck you, you're fired. I mean, it could have been a couple of different things, but still, I mean, Triple H is a fucking asshole. Like, seriously, I love Triple H. He'll always be one of my favorites, but he just sounds like a big fucking asshole. And I'm sure he wasn't like this earlier. It's just, he's too much in love with the business. He just, since he's gotten, you know, since he kind of like, almost, I wouldn't say completely retired from wrestling, but he pretty much has, he's obviously done his long time wrestling away, but, it's just, I just feel like he's changed so much since he's, you know, in charge of talent relations now and everything. He has much more bigger roles and everything like that. He's just cocky and everything like that. And I don't think he was ever used to be like this. I mean, I feel like Triple H used to be a reasonable, nice guy, but the business has gotten to his head and he's just a fucking asshole now. So that's just how it is. I just feel bad for CM Punk though, you know. I mean, it's just, and you know, I never judged him or anything before I even, you know, watched this interview 5 minutes ago, but it's just like, I mean, the only thing I did not like, I agreed with everything CM Punk said. The only thing I did not like what CM Punk said was about the Ryback thing, about how he approached him and everything like that, calling him a fucking dumbass. I don't even care. Even if I hated Ryback, I don't hate Ryback. I'm not in love with Ryback either. He's just kind of there. But it's just, he hurt Ryback's feelings. And I think that's the gist of it. And I think, and Ryback should have been more professional, obviously, about it too. But I think he needed to approach him a little bit differently. And maybe, you know, could have said like, oh, you know, let's talk to Vince about this. Or, you know, anything like that. To just try to help him out. Because maybe he doesn't know everything there is. I mean, he's still new, you know. It's not... I don't think he really did a whole bunch of indie wrestling either. I don't even know where Ryback came from, to tell you the truth, before WWE. So he probably doesn't have that much training as much as, you know, CM Punk. And, you know, CM Punk, he had like, what, 10 years of wrestling before he actually went to WWE? So there's a difference, you know, if someone's, you know, just coming kind of fresh from WWE and everything like that, because he even mentioned that Ryback made his ribs worse when he speared him and everything. Well, that's kind of common sense though too. So I don't even think that was really. He didn't even or Roman. Yeah, did I say Ryback? I meant Roman. Because Roman, I don't think he really was bad talking Roman though through his interview. He just kind of said a few little things here and there, so we don't really know what his take is on Roman. But obviously, if you're injured and if someone hits you in the same spot, it's gonna obviously get worse. It's not really their fault, but yeah. So, and Roman's new too, so I'm sure he accidentally hurt someone too, you know. And that's the thing too. I don't think Ryback intentionally did it, and I don't think, you know, and that's why I think he blew up after he, you know, watched CM Punk's interview. Maybe he really wanted to watch CM Punk's interview and was just like, oh, you know, he was a cool guy and everything. You know, I wanted to see why he left, and you know, once he put Ryback's name up and, you know, air and everything like that, he was just kind of like, you know, maybe he just rubbed him off the wrong way. But that's my takes on that, you know. I mean, like I said, I think I love the interview. The interview was great. If you guys haven't watched it yet, you definitely need to check it out. But I mean, he's very truthful. You know, you guys can say, you know, maybe there isn't some truthfully. And Ryback even said that he was lying in that interview too. And maybe he was just lying about I mean, I don't know if he was trying to say that he lied about the Ryback thing, his part about the Ryback thing, or the whole thing. But I mean, everyone has a different take on it and everything. I know Vince was upset. I feel like Vince, they said, was kind of like more like heartbroken. And Triple H, I guess, is like pissed beyond all reason. Like, I guess he's like seriously wants to like kill Punk. Like, that's how mad he is. But yeah, I mean, Triple H kind of got what's coming to him though. I mean, you know, the truth came out. And I mean, not a lot of it wasn't too shocking. The Ryback thing was a little bit shocking, but and definitely the fired thing was shocking too. But the whole how they treat, you know, Punk and everything, that's not really any surprise. You know, Vince and Triple H, really, they just pamper pretty much up to Triple H. And I loved how CM Punk said, like, they didn't think ahead of time on some stuff. And I was just like, that is WWE's whole thing. They don't think ahead. And this kind of goes for like gimmicks and stuff like that too, and characters, all that stuff. Like the Adam Rose thing, they did not think ahead. And that's the thing too for he talked a little bit about the WWE Network. He says they made it before even thinking ahead. And they made up the price and everything without thinking ahead. And he goes like, they never think ahead. And I just thought of that. I'm just like, that's pretty much on everything. They never think ahead. You know, they think about like right now, oh, what are we going to do right now? They don't think like, you know, what's going to happen 6 months down the road? You know, is it still going to be popular? Is it still going to be good? Is it still going to work? Are we going to have stuff for him 6 months down the road? Because they even said that with Punk too. They were like, I don't know if it was like for SummerSlam or something like that, but they said like right after he finished Brock, they were like, he goes, so what's new next? And he goes, they go, I don't know. Oh, and this is the thing too with the heel turn too. When he said he did not want to turn back heel. When he was after the whole Daniel Bryan and AJ storyline, he says he did not want to turn heel. He said that he was making more like he was selling more merchandise than John Cena as a face. And he said, like, obviously the 5-year-olds stopped buying my merchandise after I turned heel because to them, they don't know obviously the difference. They don't know it's just a character and everything like that. So they stopped buying my merchandise and they went obviously back to John Cena. And so that's why he says he prefers obviously being a heel better, but he was just like, I hated that because the whole thing with the merchandise, he was just like, I was making more money. And he kind of goes back into like, I know money isn't everything, but it's just like, just the little stuff they do, you know, it's just like, but yeah. Yep. And he pretty much says like, no one talks back like he does too. He says like, no one, he started talking about like Seth. And he was like saying something about like how Seth and Dean don't. And then they kind of talked about, well, Seth, and then they kind of stopped and they talked about something else. So I don't know if that was kind of like reference to his NXT thing. Because like this is probably what happened. You know, obviously we talked about how when Seth first came into, you know, NXT, you know, the developmental group, he wanted to go to the main roster right away. He knew he was ready and everything like that. And he was a little bit, he even admits to on Chris's podcast that he had an ego. I thought that was funny. But CM Punk, obviously, maybe that's kind of like the thing, you know, CM Punk could get away with it. With Seth, he's still young and everything, and they could have been like, they even, you know, Triple H even threatened him that he would fire him if he didn't calm down. So maybe that was kind of like a step back for Seth, like, oh, I better be, not kind of like hide now. I better not, you know, push forward and say something every single time I don't like something because it could cost me my job. And that's the thing with Punk now too, especially since he got so popular, he could say stuff and everything without getting kind of in trouble because Vince liked him and everything like that. And I'm sure Vince likes Seth too, but Seth obviously, like I said, is new. He's new to the business. He's not extremely popular yet, so I mean, that's probably what it is. I mean, he's new, so obviously he's scared and everything like that. Because I feel like Seth is kind of like that too. Seth obviously had a backbone. He talked up into when he was in NXT, and they didn't like that, and they told him to shut his mouth, so or he was fired. So, and that's probably what it was. But yeah, it was very interesting. He talked about a couple of people, but yeah, I definitely say check it out, guys. It was a very great interview. And for the NXT SmackDown, and I'm also going to talk about the Seth interview too tomorrow. I will do that tomorrow probably. All right. I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to thumbs up that video. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you all, and I will see you in the next one.